Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April Café Muse Literary Salon. Michael Davis, thank you for the music. It was lovely. And Henry Crawford, thank you for your technical expertise in setting all this up. And WordWorks, thank you for sponsoring our program. And also the Writers Center, thank you for hosting us. I'm Ellen Cole, and I'm hosting this evening. Tonight's program is hybrid, so audience members who are unable to come out and join us in person can still enjoy an evening of poetry. Our tech director this evening is Henry Crawford, wearing a different hat. Our featured poets tonight are Doritt Carroll, Hiram Larew, and Lillo Ray. We encourage you to buy our featured authors' books tonight, which are on the table in the back of the room. And if you're one of our online audience members, there are links in the chat, so you'll be able to buy our authors' books also. If you're one of our online audience members, you've been muted, so we won't have any technical snafus, but feel free to make comments in the chat. Our first reader of the evening is Doritt Carroll, a very creative and always animated presence in the DC poetry scene. Doritt is a native of Washington, DC. She received her undergraduate and law degrees from Georgetown University and currently practices in DC. She also runs a poetry reading series at the Art Club of DC. And I have to say that someone who can write poetry and be a lawyer is firing on both sides of her brain. Doritt is the winner of the Harbor Review's 2020 Laura Lee Washburn Chapbook Prize for her chapbook, A Meditation on Purgatory. Her collection, and I don't know if I can pronounce this, but it looks like Thank you. Stuff was published by Brickhouse Books in 2013. Her chapbook, Sorry You Are Not an Instant Winner, was published in 2017 by Caddy Wampus. And The Convert, another chapbook, was published in 2024 by Bunny and Crocodile Press. Her poems have appeared in the Main Street Rag, Rhino, North American Review, Swim, and the Mid-Atlantic Review, among others. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and the Best of the Net. The Harbor Review, in its foreword to Doritt's chapbook, A Meditation on Purgatory, writes that Doritt's work is at times feminist, always human, and always entertaining, with vivid images, memorable lines, and highly charged language that feels like truth. Please welcome the multifaceted and very talented poet, Doritt Carroll.
Well, I'm not going to live up to that. Hi, my name is Doritt Carroll. I wrote this. It's called The Convert, generously published by Bunny and Crocodile Press and designed by Henry Crawford, our hero of the evening. I'm going to read a couple of poems from the book, and then I'm going to move into a little bit of new work later. This first poem is called The Convert, Day 7, The Form of the Mass. Of course I cheated, peeked at the people in the pews through the pickets of my lashes, knelt and stood after seeing them do it like a struggling musician, half a beat behind. An early lesson, the smaller and more perfunctory the gesture, the more it looks like a cradle Catholic made it. So the smallest knee bob before entering the pew, and when you cross yourself, go fast and draw a 6-inch clock face, max. eyebrows to just below throat hollow, then a 3-inch dab on either collarbone, and then there are those X's. Glory, X your forehead, to you, X your lips, oh Lord, X your heart, then kiss the thumb that did the Xing as if your own skin was a thing that you don't like. And that was published in Rhino. The next poem was published by Main Street Rag, and it later became part of the chapbook that Harbor Review published, and it's called A Meditation on Purgatory. The dog lies half in the road, half on the curb, like a comma in a sentence you can't take back. A small humped bridge between right now and the second before the speeding car. The intact part of the day receding beneath you like the ground from under a climbing plane. Sometimes past and present stand on either side of a pane of glass and stare at each other. A visit between the life you intended and the one you'll be living after. The unlocked gate, the fleeting lapse of concentration, the momentary flame of anger on the kindling of your never dependable self-control. Sometimes your 4 red finger marks linger on the face of your child, like pox. Sometimes you lift your eyes and let your partner see they're rimmed and empty as old cups. Sometimes when you call, the dog does not come back. This next poem is called Erev Kaddish. In Judaism, the night before the holiday is Erev, and Kaddish is the prayer for the dead. There is no such thing as Erev Kaddish. I made it up to describe the night before my father died. Erev Kaddish. The lips of the nearly dead sink in, as if they will leap past the teeth, throw themselves down the well of the mouth. The veins of the nearly dead stand up on the backs of their hands, tectonic, like ridges, pushed up by the plates of life and death, struggling past each other. The feet of the almost dead are restless, circling 7 times this groom with whom they are betrothed but not yet acquainted. This is a little sillier, and it was published by Swim. The convert discovers joy. The church had a slogan for it, joy, meaning that you tried to please first Jesus, then others, and only if there was time left over, yourself. Later, after I had given up, I called the mothers group that met in the rectory basement the Martyrdom Olympics. If I mentioned I'd been sick, every other mother had been sicker, and while deathly ill, also had driven 150 miles for sports pickup while icing 50 cupcakes on the way. When they asked how many children I had, their response always was the same, only 2? Not just because it suggested I might be using birth control, but also because it meant I wasn't suffering enough. One of the expressions everyone repeated was offer it up, meaning give your suffering to God. And one time the room fell silent when I asked, but why would he want it? A lot of the poems in The Convert have biblical titles, and this is Psalm 150. Let everything that has breath praise. My parents thought of compliments like overpaying or donating an organ, something that made you lose more than you could afford, something where the giving hurt but also lowered you. So now the person receiving the compliment stood on a bucket and looked taller. We don't lower ourselves, I could hear them saying through their teeth. We came to this country never to lower ourselves again, they said, as the winch turned and they disappeared down and down into the heart's well. The next poem was published by Mid-Atlantic Review, and they kindly nominated it for a pushcart, which it did not win. Typing double R's. Typing double R's is a mistake my computer is attached to, like loving the wrong person or eating after 8. It can't resist giving me a string of them each time, like a cat that loves to be petted but can only stand it for so long before it bites. I tell myself people can only stand it for so long, and so it's really my own fault. How many cultures have a saying for don't do this dumb thing twice? Once burned, twice shy. There is no education in the second kick of a mule, and of course, fool me once. And yet my hand, how it reaches. This is another biblical title, and it's from Matthew 25. If you are churchy, you'll know what that is. And you gave me something to eat. Friends are just the people you run into, like that pole in the garage or the ankle-eating corner of your bed. Move and you'll never see them again, but you'll see something like them. You can go to 10 different countries and every one of them sells a can of beans. And in each one of them, somebody buys that can and takes it home and eats alone. I shouldn't admit this, but I'd rather eat alone. I don't have to worry about how I'm using my fork, and I can read a book about people who aren't watching what I'm doing wrong. Until I was 7, I ate every meal alone. I had a pink plastic table and a chair, and my mother put my food down on the table and switched on the TV, and then like a little monkey in a cage, I grabbed up the food with both hands and stared at the people on the screen who did not look back. Looking back, I'd say the important thing I learned in school was Zeno's paradox, that for me to get to you, I have to cross the midpoint between me and you, and then the midpoint of that midpoint to infinity. And the minute somebody explained this thing to me, my first thought was, oh, Zeno was a lonely child too. The rest of these are new work. This one was just published in Gargoyle. I think it's up online. I haven't looked yet, but I think Richard said he published. I'm spreading it out so I don't have to do it while I'm talking. What I wore to my wedding. What I wore to my wedding was a lace blouse with a pussy bow that was 2 sizes too big and a brown velvet skirt that was 3, both from my mother's closet. Safety pinned, not altered, so I looked like a cross between a diapered baby and the front desk receptionist of a whorehouse. And it never occurred to me once to ask, could I have a new dress? I was a beggar, not a chooser, except I didn't beg. I was a girl surrounded by boulders like Stonehenge, but without the space between the rocks. So I didn't push, just sat down cross-legged and picked clover. Everything was and is, and you can't change what is. So you just stay inside the locked cabinet of it, breathing the air you can breathe. Once later, I stupidly told my parents that, desperate to get the baby to go to sleep one midnight, I had taken her in her car seat for a drive. And she did fall asleep, and we came home. My parents sat down facing me like parole agents, reminding me slowly that my father was a shrink and he could lock me up and take the baby if I did anything else crazy. And you know what? I didn't tell my husband about that until 20 years later. Just sat there like a little ship constructed in a bottle, which of course doesn't miss water. And the last ones are real new, but I think they're okay. Valentine. Daddy doesn't hate you, I assure the dog, even though he says so. Believe me, I rely on this, as I do on other possible non-truths. The way I'm leaving you has an unvoiced, but not now, hanging in brackets after it like a picture on the wall. When we were dating, my husband said I was at best a 6 out of 10, but his hands kept bumping into me like pigeons at a window. Any declaration is a Polaroid, nothing but a picture of right now. By the time the picture develops, that particular right now is over. So if I love you is just something written with a sparkler on night air, then I hate you is steam rising from a grate. Something under your feet made that steam, but that something is barreling away on tracks while you're walking in the opposite direction. And now both it and you are someplace else. Once my husband got me a Valentine with a T-Rex on the front, stretching its little alligator arms with a cartoon bubble above it that said, "I love you this much." But then when you opened it up, inside it said, "It's more than it looks like." And it is. More, and less, and less, and sometimes more. Geometry. My neighbor's trash cans are lined up at attention. Ours cluster like children at a bus stop. You can tell a lot from the position of things. A rabbi once said if you find 3 coins lying flat on the ground, you may conclude they have been dropped and keep them. But if they are stacked, you know the owner has arranged them and is planning to return. In this case, you may not touch the coins. An ark perched on sawhorses is an insurance policy. An ark floating on the ocean is a prison. An ark colliding with the side of a mountain is a possibility, a maybe. When my dog lies with all 4 feet in the air, his spine a joyful S, I know he has given himself to the state of sleep like a present, the way in first love you say, "Here, take me." Conversely, my husband once explained that the reason he leaves all the cabinets in the kitchen open is because as soon as he gets the thing he needs, the cabinet doesn't exist for him anymore. This poem is a little undercooked, but since we're all thinking about this subject, I'll close with it. Democracy. Democracy was like the air. We walked around in it, didn't see it, didn't worry. Who worries about air? Maybe it's not accidental that the current airlessness descended on us only a few years after the ventilators and the masks. Maybe there was something we were supposed to notice. To survive a ventilator, a patient must be given sedatives and paralytics. As a result, the patient can't open his eyes or move, but later, if he recovers, he will tell you, "I heard every word you said, but I couldn't find the strength to lift a finger." Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doritt. Those were wonderful. And I'm glad you read the democracy poem because it is on everyone's mind. Hiram has had a long career as a botanist working with the USDA National Institute for Food and Agriculture. And he's also an advocate for reducing worldwide hunger. His 7th poetry collection, This Much Very, was published by Alien Buddha Press in 2025. His poems have received the Louisiana Literature Prize, the Washington Review Poetry Blue Ribbon, and have been nominated for 4 pushcards. His work has also appeared in recent issues of Poetry Scotland, Poetry South, The Brown Critique, Contemporary American Voices, and Best Poetry Online. He's received grants from arts councils as well as the United Nations for his Poetry X Hunger initiative, which encourages poets to contribute to local and worldwide anti-hunger efforts. I'm honored to welcome scientist, activist, and poet Hiram Larew.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here at the Writer Center. I haven't been here since they've gussied it up and renovated. It's a very, very nice facility. So it's a pleasure to come back and see it in its new garb. I want to thank Ellen, of course, and Henry and Karen and the rest of the Café Muse team, as well as, of course, the whole family that's involved with the WordWorks, a vital group here in the greater DC area that has reach international. And I want to thank all of those who have, of course, joined us here in person this evening, as well as those who have taken time out to join us online. Really appreciate that very, very much. I want to dedicate my reading this evening to Cliff Bernier. I'll be reading 6 or 7, possibly 8 poems, but I'll take a short break towards the end for a public service announcement. Most all of these pieces have been lifted from my most recent collection, This Much Vary, that was published last month by Alien Buddha Press. So this first poem is a love poem. It looks back to fly forward. It's titled Right Here, Right Now. As he was climbing the garden wall, Romeo, in all legends and moonlight, began to realize deep down and surely the glorious power of his arms. And so he flew beyond himself in love. Oh, yes, he did. Even though he was and still is just smoke. And when too, almost as long ago, one of the most fabled explorers alive finally found freshets of water in the desert, gurgling like sighs, there must have been a cry in his heart, yes, a love in flight that can never, ever be described in tales gone by, no matter what. So then, when, beyond all discovery, the only daybreak in the world blooms and flows right here, right now, on your shoulder, to rise in my arms in a story, is it any surprise that even the clouds shake their head and say, oh, no, 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 no. There are too many wings already. This poem first appeared in Poetry Bus. It's all about gratitude. Actually, it's about the flip side of gratitude. It's about not being grateful enough. It's titled Wilt or Stray. I am incredibly lucky. Even this haze knows it. Even my useless gaze says so in every way. To be where I am now, living like this, is like cherries on a branch. In fact, I'm not nearly grateful enough for this mud and for its reasons. Not thankful enough for fences blown down or kinked hoses. No, I don't deserve porches. In fact, I need to tip my hat in love and honor to every buzzing swarm that's coming at me, or to any wilt or stray. And I should surely thank my lucky stars, my blessings, for what last night had its way with the row of beans out back in the garden. I love mistakes, so this is a love poem to mistakes. It first appeared in Poetry Catalog. It's titled Wrong Things. I need to listen more to wrong things. Yes, I need to let talk that's hard get close to me. I need to believe in the truth of burned up dinners and take lessons from dogs that sneak by with ticks. In fact, the only way I'll learn, probably, is from an animal that's hurt or from a kid who's shaky, scared. Yes, the hollow sounds they make turn my shivers into wisdom. So with all of that in mind, I think I'll turn my back on the most certain things in life, because it seems along comes a mistake or bams of angry lightning, and what had been neat and locked down tight splits apart wide open all at once, with concerns, yes, but also revelations. And as I get a little bit older, I always, or I tend to look more and more ahead, and back, of course, but this one is looking ahead. It appeared first in Next Page Ink. You will outlive you beyond all memories or lakes, in bunches of grapes, in every raking tune and brimming. You will be maybe. You will outlive you again and again, as travelers know, as moss whispers go, as rusted leaves blow too truly. In every bundle of rain, or from trains in the hill, with every still that's alive, you will outlive you entirely. Behind closing eyes, behind all the tries, and as wide loves all wides, you will become pies glowing. This one, you have to imagine living in Kansas or Oklahoma, in the 1940s. It first appeared in an anthology put together by the River Road Poetry Group out west, and it's titled Wheat Dust. Only thing I can think of as bad off as me is harvest. Yes, it's as flat as my face and just about as friendly as a dead rock. Try making anything out of this wheat dust, if you will. Someone said just yesterday that my eyes look bad. Well, of course they do, from no water. Crows could tell you as much. They're not dumb. No rain and they're gone. They've got good sense. Fact is, they flew off months ago when the going was good. When I was still sleeping on the old box springs for the love Pete, but not anymore. Let me say again, what a joy it is to be sleeping flat on the floor, right down there with the mice and the musties. I tell you, if I didn't have Jimmy, I'd leave too. Damn, I would. Something will happen. And these days and times, Doritt read a wonderful piece there, your last poem, about kind of the times we're living through. I have to sometimes just try to imagine beyond the daily headlines, or I would even say in this case, above the daily headlines, This is a love poem to the moon. It first appeared in Right Now Lit. It's titled To the Limit. Someone asks me what I would fight for. Well, I'd fight for the moon in a heartbeat, with its halo of wisdom, its cloud cover of guess, and its wish to, even its merely. Yes, I'd march for its glowing. And I'd defend the moon with longings, with anything I could muster, no limits, to keep it up over for harvests or phases, even for no one. Then, if allowed to, I'd rejoice in its quiet apart from, that always wins me, for as long as what matters lets me. The moons mix of far away, but right there, all gathered around. Coming into the home stretch here, this is an older piece. It first came out in Wisconsin River Valley Journal. Another love poem. It's titled Boat. You see, I don't care if his hair is combed bad. He is my son. I love every shoestring of him, every bit that he thinks he knows. 15 years. I don't care what he becomes, because he'll become something. Look at him. He'll become more than those red ears or grinning legs. He'll become even more important than midnight. More and more, I hold him by his shoulder less and less. And when I do, it's as if he can't be here forever. I think I'll get him a boat to carry and then watch him, like the minute that just went by. in the long run. Nothing I do will matter. I know that. But look at him, especially when he's reaching for something. There must be a whole other world out there somewhere that's missing him. So I promised and threatened to take just a minute here to talk about Poetry X Hunger. Many of you are not only familiar with it, but have contributed your talents and your poems to it. But for those of you who haven't, I'd encourage you to, because in it, through this initiative, Poetry X Hunger, we're using poetry by poets from literally around the world to raise awareness about the, these days, everywhere you look, scourge of hunger. For example, we're working to use the poems to raise awareness as well as funds. So for example, a YouTube Poetry X Hunger poem has been viewed by, last count, 180,000 viewers. And we're also raising funds to fight hunger. In the last couple of years, Poetry X Hunger poets raised about $20,000. All of those funds went to anti-hunger groups near and far. So help us turn poetry into food. If you have a poem about empty stomach hunger, send it in for possible publication on the Poetry X Hunger website. That website where the guidelines are available is just Poetry X, the letter X, Poetry X Hunger, that's all one phrase, .com. So this last piece is a love poem to poetry. It's titled Senses More Of. What I would give for a poem's line to love me, to wake me unknowing with what time it is, and hum words of purple light for me, or write what's new by rise. What I would do for that kind of love that shies for sounds or rhymes more of me than I have. I would vow so my heart, so my days, and any phrases to say as much if I could. Yes, for that gift of once, I would pledge my dreams and bounds for the chance to wake beside a poem's shoulder. Thanks so much. Thanks, Ellen.
Hiram, thank you. Those were delightful and moving. I particularly like the persona poems. I don't know, maybe you should try writing a play. I'm delighted to introduce our next poet, Lillo Way. Lillo's latest book is Flying, Trapeze Poems, published by Redbird Chapbooks in 2024. Ray's poetry collection, Lend Me Your Wings, is described by Ellen Bass as rich in music and in imagination, a celebration and a joy. In Flying, Lillo Way inhabits the voice of her grandmother, for whom she was named, in deeply researched poems that capture the world of circus performers in the late 19th and 20th century. And I want to show you this cover for a moment, because this is a Barnum and Bailey poster, Barnum and Bailey Circus, and Lillo's mother is, excuse me, grandmother, that's important. She would have had to have a very long life if she'd been her mother. But anyway, she's this middle figure here, and you can see her better on the back because every one of these flying aerialists is Lillo's grandmother. Can you see it, Henry? Lillo's chapbook, Dubious Moon, won the Hudson Valley Writers Center Slappering Hall Press chapbook contest. She won the E.E. Cummings Award and a Florida Review Editor's Prize. Her writing has appeared nationally in many journals and anthologies. She's received grants from the NEA, the New York State Council on the Arts, and the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation for her choreographic work involving poetry, and I wish I could see that. She's really like a walking school for the arts. She's a professional actor, choreographer, and dancer, in addition to being a wonderful poet. So please welcome the multi-talented dancer and poet, Lillo Way.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Hiram and Doritt, for those wonderful poems and words. Thank you, Henry and Karen, for making this evening possible. And thank you, listeners, for being here and being online. There is a prefatory poem in this book, Flying. Prologue, Lillo Dillon. She arrived in a drowsy back river town by way of the Big Top. She sailed to America from England on a flying trapeze, discovered by Barnum and booked by the greatest show on earth. A poster depicts the wasp-waisted flying Dillons, demons of the air, my teenage grandmother and her two brothers, Elspeth and Echo. She met the top-billing equestrian aboard ship, married him at the little church around the corner, 29th and Madison, around the corner from the old Madison Square Garden, where they were playing, which means working, which means riding, which means flying. With each of her children came a smaller circus, until there were no circuses left. And the great aerialist opened a corner grocery in Havre de Grace, Maryland, and went quietly blind. The next 22 poems in this little collection are first person singular in the persona of Lillo Dillon. So I will now be Lillo Dillon, reading a few of the poems that my granddaughter wrote about me. Aviculture. I've been captured and cultivated, but not quite a bird. My marrow-full bones soar on no shafts of wind, with no flight feathers. I'm a mythical, celestial, unpinioned trapeze god, all flex and pump, all sweep and swing. Look, they've trained me to fly. 3 years after learning to walk, I learned to walk on a tightrope. Mama sews my slippers and leotards, trims them in curtain fringe. At 4, I'm an acrobat. I run up the springboard, flip, and land on my feet. The size of an orangutan, I clamber up the rope the way a monkey would, catch the rings which refuse to behave. Papa lifts me by the waist and hangs me on the trapeze bar as if to dry. Together, Elspeth and I fit easily on it, playing games while singing. That bar is our swinging home. We won't be coaxed down to earth where our legs feel like granite. Papa's surname is Stone. He gives us Mama's name, Dillon. Says he couldn't very well call us the Flying Stones, now could he? Echo. My little brother stands on tiptoe in the garden, face up, sun-cupped, imitating the birds. A flycatcher flashes from the tree, swoops, somersaults, darts back to its branch. My brother's laughter bounces off the walls of the house, and my father renames him Echo. Elspa and I will learn to pitch ourselves from our perch, arc and wheel, but Echo is a born catcher. Some people give and some receive. Every night, Echo receives us, then tosses us back where we belong. Every night, I give myself away to my eager audience, their upturned faces, wide eyes. Catchers call, "Listo," cueing the flyer to push off from the platform. "Listo, listo," aerialists hear it in their dreams. Echo is the only one who whistles. The flycatcher's 3 notes, ba ba ba, learned as a child in Liverpool. Come to me. He catches me by my wrists, tosses me up, catches me again by my feet. The whomp of the waited moment. Perfect connection. New World. From the gilded theaters and opera houses of Europe, where we are called artistes, the star attraction on a single stage, accompanied by a string ensemble, sharing the bill with violin virtuosi, ballerinas, and leader singers. Our audiences in kid gloves and fine millinery, velvet seated in balconies bathed in golden light. 2, tenting on America's great plains, in the cacophonous clang of rigging on its way up or down, and the pandemonium of 6,000 spectators, overalled men and shoeless children, crowding and crowing around 3 rings of performers, simultaneously risking our lives amid the jamboree of a brass band, followed or preceded by wild animals and human anomalies. My new world expands as my old pride shrinks. Clown White. At the makeup table in Clown Alley, 2 brown men paint their faces white, seated among 12 white men who paint their faces white. All peel on a skull cap, crazy wig or giant hat, white glove to every hand, starry eyes to some, red noses to others, huge red lips for each. No clown's eyebrows end up where nature put them. The clowns, whiter than anyone in the crowd, behave ridiculously and laugh at themselves. Social order takes a pratfall, rolls out of the ring on a hoop or on a jackass facing backwards. And here's what gives me hope. No one altogether forgets that day at the circus. Welcome to the backlot. Sylvie, the petite bear trainer, sunbathes on the far side of Alphonse, who is working his barbells. Even after bathing, he radiates the faint scent of his big cats. Trixie, the contortionist tumbler, paints her toes. Alicia colors the hair by which she will hang twirling tonight. Her partners, Ajax and Ozzy, play cards. Welcome to the backlot, the performer's backyard. Folding steamer chairs line aisles created by taut tent ropes, our down-angled clotheslines. Late mornings and between shows, we spread out from the ring into our version of a neighborhood. Animal wagons and circus sheets, canvas sheets block view and passage. We've each got a big tub for scrubbing our clothes and 2 water buckets, our names inscribed, for bathing and drinking, only the clowns get 3. I stretch my limbs, mend our slippers. Rosie, my eldest, the only talented one of my brood, has her substantial nose in a book. My others play tag, marbles, and blind man's bluff. They giggle, happy as suburbanites, glad to be off the wire. You won't see my husband here. Something always needs doing among his horses, his other family. If he appears in the back lot, it is only to nudge Rose to come rehearse. Ron and Tom touch up the red and white paint of their springboard. Antonio rides by on his unicycle, a filled bucket in each hand, no drops spilt. I'm startled by Freddie and Sam without their clown makeup. Their faces seem too private to be displayed uncovered. Jean-Christophe, a bareback rider, backflips over me just to see my surprise, hear my laughter. One morning in the backlot, my friend Rita of the Dog Act gives me a Chihuahua puppy. I name her the first word that comes to mind, joy. Descent. I'm saved nightly from death when my brother catches me by the ankles mid-plunge. Flyers often black out while balled up tight tumbling. Come to when hands slap against wrists or ankles and clasp hard. An aerialist friend falls, dies within minutes. My brothers hang up the ropes and return to England. No one to catch me now. My waist widens. 2 of my infants die. I train my eldest children to the high wire, a family novelty act with tutus and parasols. Our dinner served from huge stained pots in the shabby food tent of a third-rate circus. My children sitting on overturned buckets. In all their memories, they are hungry. Mythos. My daughters lie about their ages, having missed seasons of school. I embroider golden crowns on their underwear, that in their most private moments, they might remember they are of royal blood, their royalty arising from palace forebearers, jesters to the kings and queens of England, who fooled their way into the bedchambers of blue bloods. One family's myth, defense against the jeers, the epithet, circus trash. Straight spines, heads held high, a crown to the knickers. Housebound. Don't want to soar in the stratosphere. Want to sit on my muscular buttocks on the bleachers, eat peanuts and clap my calloused hands. Hold my most recent child in one arm, smell the sweetness of her new spirit. I've tasted fame. I know the ropes, been on one since I could walk. I want a kitchen, not a cookhouse, and a house that doesn't roll on tracks. I'll stride away from the canvas tents, stroll into a home, a nursery. Leave my overworld, society's underworld, erase the shame from my children's lives. We'll laugh and amble the park. I relinquish the air to the angels and fairies. Wake in the morning, feet on the ground, earth-bound, unspangled. Look at me in my very first house dress. Just a song at twilight. Proud, blind woman who had once flown. I now live solely in the company of birds. The only music I want to hear, theirs. Sometimes their songs make me laugh. Other times I sing to them. I'll see you in my dreams. They answer me, call and response. Song lyrics and songs without words meet midair. Though the heart be weary, fountain of bird notes, still comes your old sweet song. I trill, they trill faster. They whistle, I hold their liquid note longer. My timbre clear and bright as the wren's. I pause. My head cocks at the piccolo solo of a house finch. Evening grows dark, no darker for me. Farewell, my turtle dove, great clacking of beak and wing. Goodbye, my lady love, goodbye. Epilogue, Flyer's Ghost. Ha! Here I am, louche in the High Flyers Lounge, vast but weightless, sailing without effort as I spent my life trying to do. In one moment, done. All the aerialists who ever lived are one flyer. Our powerful bodies gone to pure spirit in a flash like the follow spots on a sequin. Triple somersaults mid-air? Ha! Centruple, no problem. We'd heard the word bliss. Now we've got it. As long as we never, ever fall to earth again. Ha!
Well, that was fabulous. Thank you. It was a performance, really. I felt lucky to have been here for it. And I want to thank all of our readers for their wonderful readings. Hiram, Doritt. It was a great evening of poetry. I also want to thank Michael again for his music, which always puts us in the poetry listening mood. And I want to thank Karen and the WordWorks for sponsoring this series, and Henry again for his technical expertise. And I want to thank my fellow co-hosts, Henry Crawford, Majda Gama, Claire McGough, and Luther Jett, for the work that allows this series to happen. Most importantly, I want to thank all of you, our audience who came out here on a rainy spring night to hear poetry, and those of you who turned into Zoom, thank you. You're what makes our series important, and we really appreciate it. Next month, our program will be on Monday, May 5th on Zoom, and our featured poets will be Suzanne Frischkorn and Ai-He Lee. Please mark your calendars and be sure to register so you won't miss the information that will allow you to log in. Tell your friends and that they might also enjoy the Café Muse literary salon. Good night, and try and enjoy the beautiful red buds and tulips that are popping up, and sometimes think about something other than what we hear on TV. Good night.